So, hello everyone. Welcome to the YouTube channel of Tech with Peter. And today I have Mahmoud. I didn't ask if that's the right way to pronounce it, so I hope I did a good job.
No, it's okay. That's a good job. I've heard it far worse, so you're all good. You're all
Okay.
good.
Yeah, I think sometimes some people say Mahmoud, some say Mahmoud. I'm not sure how you should be pronounced.
So actually, the first one that you said,
Mahmoud.
Mahmoud. That's the perfect way. Some people
Okay.
say Mahmoud, and that's not okay. But Mahmoud is perfect. Yeah.
Okay. I hope I keep with that. So today we're focusing on self-hosting, and on the channel we've spoken a bit about some DevOps topic like setting up your own CDN or things around Caddy. And I'm
Yeah.
happy to have a stream today about self-hosting. Today on Sidekick. In 2 weeks' time, I have another one about Caddy,
Oh,
Caddy
nice.
server, and also talking with another guest that uses it for their CDN. So it's nice to have you, and I
Thank you.
think it's we've been in touch a few times over Twitter DM, but never really seen face to face. So it's good to finally speak over video. I think you're based in I think Korea, or I don't remember.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I'm currently based in South Korea. So I'm originally from Egypt, but I live in Sydney. But currently, we live in South Korea. Yeah.
Oh, how long have you been in South Korea?
Oh, it's been a year now. What day is it today? It's 21st. We landed 24th, 25th of February last year. So it's been almost a
Okay.
year now. Yeah.
So
It's
how do
fun.
you like it? Is it the digital nomad life, or you went there for work?
I went there for my wife. So we my wife is Korean, so we staying here for
Okay.
maybe one more year, 1 year and a half more or something. So yeah, we staying here for a bit. Yeah, just to try a different country and so on, and then later we go back to Sydney. But yeah, we kind of like we'll settle down in Sydney. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I would like to try something similar because um, now we have a kid which is like one
Oh
year
no.
old now, so we can't really travel that much in the last 1 year. But I'm hoping we could do some trips towards summer or end of the year, maybe to Mexico or somewhere also in Asia, like I don't know, maybe Japan.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. That'll be fun, man. Yeah, but I feel you. When you have a child, things change, I guess.
yeah, it's a different life in the last 1 year.
Must have
Yeah,
been.
yeah. Um, Today we want to talk to you about Sidekick, which you made, but also about the whole concept around self-hosting and managing your own servers. And before I would go into the topic of Sidekick, I would like to talk about self-hosting because in the last 2 years, I guess I think there's been a whole new trend of, serverless horror stories and people moving to
Yeah, that's right.
self-hosting. Like Hertzner seems to be trending with all their good pricing
Yeah,
servers. And I know you mentioned Fly.io in Sidekick, so I'm
of
probably
course.
guessing you are a fan of Fly.io
Oh, hell
as
yeah.
well. So what do you how what are your opinion, with the recent um, move towards self-hosting? What do you think are like the reasons why people are moving to that?
I think it seems to me that a lot of times, like the big companies have sold us this. I don't want to say a lie, but it's basically marketing and business where you have to have this complex setup to serve like 10,000 people or something like that. And I think that's mainly because most of the companies that are in San Francisco or in Sydney or here, whatever it is, they are concerned with solving problems of massive scale. So they don't want to serve 1,000, 10,000 people or 15,000 people. They want to be able to serve 15 million people a month. And because of that, most of the infrastructure has been kind of like tailored towards how you can solve for these problems. So you think about all the horizontal scaling and all the different types of scaling with Kubernetes, managing a million servers and so on. And I think there has been a trend where people like you and me have realized that you don't need a huge company to build a SaaS or a web service or something that solves a problem that people have. But I think at the same time, all the marketing has been about, the marketing has just basically been about how to sell more servers, because they are trying to solve for these massive problems that we don't have. And obviously, nobody's going to try to sell you a new idea or something like that without trying to make a lot of money, a lot of margin on it. And we all have heard about how much Vercel repackages AWS in a way with massive margins. So I think this has been happening maybe for the last 7 years, excluding the last 2 years, like you mentioned. So I think people have woken up to the fact that there are companies who are literally just repackaging servers in a different way. And then the idea that the idea that managing servers is really difficult and expensive and nobody else can do it, and you have to get a company to do it for you, has been proven wrong, I would say. It's not that difficult. It's easy, specifically if you don't need to serve 1 million users a month. If you're trying to make an app that serves 10,000 or 15,000, which can definitely make a really good margin, right? You can make a lot of money doing that way. You don't really need to do that. So I think that's why people are waking up to try to do self-hosting again.
Yeah. I think even if you have millions of users, it's also could also be fairly easy. Like the guys from 37 Signals moving to on-premise servers and dedicated servers. So they are, showing you that you could save a lot of money. I think they showed some savings around millions of dollars that they've saved from moving off,
that's right,
the big cloud, which I think it's, it's with this AWS wrappers, almost every big tech companies are AWS
that's right.
wrappers. And I'm not sure. I think it falls in between two spectrums. So on one end, I could say all marketers are liars. There's a book from Seth Godin.
I know it, yeah.
Which comes to mind. And then on the other hand, I think it's more like maybe people have gotten to believe that they are sorry for the reaction.
It's all good, dude.
Maybe people have gotten used to getting so that it's hard to manage server. I mean, yes, it's hard, but not to the extent you can't do it yourself.
That's right. Yeah.
I think the likes of Vercel did a good job of educating people in a certain way, because one way something gets popular is to teach people to behave in a certain way. So you now have a lot of boot camps that are moving towards teaching Next.js mainly, and then you deploy to Vercel. So now you you come out of school not knowing what Linux is or how to deploy. Back in the day, I think it was like LAMP stack and some stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
Then these days, people just use Vercel or something similar. So I think those are the causes we've seen about why people get lazy about doing these things themselves. I also see that with web development in terms of React winning the game. A lot of people now get to learn React, and at the moment for me, React is it works. It's good for some situation, but a lot of times I've seen it not being the best fit for the job, and people don't think about it because that's the only thing they know. So
that is correct. Yeah, I mean, I started as a front end developer, and now I'm a senior engineer, so I can do everything across the stack. I personally, I would actually say that I hate React. I actually have to say that. So I actually do. I think it's related to what you said. It's not web development, it's React development, and that for me now is a complete turnoff. I think I'm always struck by the fact that if you want to do some animation in React, you have to look for a React animation library. You're not going to look for a web animation library. You're not going to look for a JavaScript animation library, and that's because React has abstracted the client away from you. The client code that you and I will write has to run in this use effect hook. That's the only portal for you and I to have access to the browser. Everything else have to be done the React way. And at the beginning, it's fun and like you get used to it. Oh, there's so many libraries you can import and all that stuff. But later you realize like, yeah, if I'm trying to manipulate some part of the DOM in a certain way, then I'm gonna find a million hurdles going my way. And I'm gonna have to make a ref that goes out of the rendering that doesn't change so that I can, so I'm like, I still use it because I don't have time to learn Svelte. I think Svelte is the best. But honestly, I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, I haven't tried Svelte, but in recent months, Svelte was on my radar. Also, Solid,
Solid is
but
really good too.
I haven't really gotten time to try it. But I think those are good. At least it's good to have people considering other options, not just relying on React. And I think
Completely agree.
I think it's more like for me with React, it was using it a lot for jobs, and then after a while, I've seen a lot of React hooks error that people that I feel like, okay, maybe people shouldn't even be using React in the first place if they use it, but they don't really understand how to use it properly. But also, like, not every app should be single page applications,
That is also correct.
And it's interesting to see how we've gone from single page applications being the trend, and now we're going all back to server side rendering again. So,
yeah, that's right. And yeah, man, it's crazy. It really is crazy. And I think one of the reasons why I really don't like Vercel is because they, I think you put it the right way. They are shaping the way people learn, and obviously they have business incentive to do that, right? But it's not,
But they're not the only culprit, AWS sold Lambda to you, and everybody was doing one runtime per request, and now we've seen the trade-offs of that, and people are now trying to demand more containers, and now you can run containers on Lambda, and they also have Fargate, but still yet they sell you all the whole server. I think it works for some scenarios, but you get to a point where having your own servers and controlling some stuff is much cheaper and easier to manage than the other way around. But also, it's all about what the marketing gives to you and what the sales. But
100%.
Fit some scenarios, but you have to look at when it's the right suit for the job. But
yes, exactly.
In a busy world, in a busy world, nobody has time to weigh their options.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, but you're right. You have to look at what problem you're trying to solve. And I also think that with, like, I don't know how to put this in other words, but man, complexity is bad. Like, if you try and solve a problem and you find yourself reaching a complex solution, there's probably something wrong. This is what I tell myself. Like, complexity is bad. If you keep introducing complexity to problem, to your solutions to things, it's gonna get messy. And I think it already is very messy. That's why serverless never made sense to me. I never used it, to be honest.
But isn't complexity what gets you promoted on the job?
Hey, that's a different topic, Peter. That's a different topic. You gotta make that dough, bro.
That's somehow how I feel about the whole I don't know how to call it, the whole 9 to 5 industry, because after like 10-12 years working, then you realize everyone just glorifies complexity, and they don't want to say how hard it is and how it doesn't make sense, but because it's trendy, the whole microservices. I've seen companies, like when I was consulting, like using microservices and Kafka for something that is they just have 2 backends, and maybe a request response would have been better, but then we have all this Kafka, and then you can't trace properly where things are failing. So I think the industry just loves doing complex stuff. And also with TypeScript, when you write TypeScript, you see people using a lot of complex types, and I look at the code with like, okay, now I have to try to understand what your type does just to understand the code. And it's just that. But anyway, let's not spend so much time on
it's a long topic.
Yeah. So I know you like Fly.io, and
Yes.
so we talked already about how self-hosting is, managing your own servers, not necessarily dedicate bare metals like buying hardwares, but you could get a cloud VM and install Linux and all of that stuff on a single virtual machine.
Yeah.
So when would you say is the right scenario to use that or bare metals against, something like maybe Vercel or even Fly.io, which I think you are familiar with?
Yeah. So I think for me, what are you trying to do? If you're trying to play around with like some side projects like I do, and like my target audience for Sidekick are trying to do, I think you should always start with a self-hosted because it's the cheapest way, or Fly.io, because Fly is just so, I don't know how else to say it, man. They're just so generous, and the reason why they are so generous is that they have solved a very tricky underlying problem. They've managed to take your Docker image, decompose that into the tarball, basically the payload, and then take that payload, spin up a micro VM that will sleep when there are no requests.
Mhm.
So it will cost them nothing to just keep your application somewhere there. And when there is a request that comes in, they will spin it very quickly and they will serve it. And if that sounds a little bit like serverless, maybe a little bit like serverless, but that allows them to say, hey, if your billing is less than $5, we don't want it.
Yeah.
And that's why I think if you go with Fly.io and then you start scaling, not only will it scale very well, but I really like the genius of the whole system. They've managed to make it in a way that's just like they've solved a complex problem. You know what I mean? Like it's really something
Easy to
different, I think.
deploy.
Yeah, I think obviously it's very easy to deploy, and that's what I'm trying to do with Sidekick as well. I was trying to bring that experience to your VPS, right? It's like this Fly deploy or Fly launch. I'm very heavily inspired by Fly because I wanted to give the same experience, because everybody keeps saying it's easy to deploy, easy to deploy, easy to deploy, but I feel like it's not that difficult to replicate that experience. And maybe later I'll give you a demo and see what I mean. But yeah, like Fly.io has been an extremely impressive service for me. Like, not like, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So going back to your question, basically, when do you do it? When do you choose? Depending on how much traffic you have. And I would personally just manage stuff now because I'm very comfortable with it because I made Sidekick. But if you're not, then you can just go with Fly. Fly will give you, I think, the best bang for your buck. And then if it happens you scale very big, you can simply just spin up the app somewhere else on your VPS and then get the traffic with the DNS change, and that will also work.
Yeah. Since it also works with regular containers, so you can just run them with your container runtime.
Yep, that is also correct. Yeah.
Because it doesn't do any magic, unlike Vesa that have their own way of reading files, But Fly.io just takes your Docker file and turns them into a
Yep.
virtual machine. And then if you take that Docker file and you run on your VPS with Sidekick, for example,
It was
you
just run.
also just run the same application.
That is correct.
Uh,
Yeah, and I like that. I like that very much. Yeah. Yeah. So
I
that's why I'm
think
saying, like, sorry, go
sorry,
ahead.
go on. You first.
No, I was just saying that's why I like Fly, because they have solved an actual problem. And like this will sound a little bit bad, I guess, but the people behind Fly are the people who are building what is it called, Phoenix framework. I forgot his name, but he's the maker of Phoenix, works for Fly. I mean, and the
Is it
maker of
Jose?
Fly.
I think no, not Jose.
I think he's Brazilian, if I'm not mistaken, or South American at least.
Yeah, Jose. I think Jose is the one making Alexa.
Yeah, that's right.
But I
Yeah,
forgot the
Alexa.
one from Fly.
And then Jose Valim, yeah, that's the one, and Chris McCord. So these two guys, I think they work in Fly now. And then there was one other person. He's the maker of Lightstream. I love Lightstream as well. I can talk a little bit about it. Maker of Lightstream. I think he works in Ben Johnson. He also works he makes Lightstream and LightFS. He also works in Fly. And yeah, these people, in my opinion, they are really trying to solve complex problems, and they're trying to simplify things and take technology forward. And they at least in my perspective, they do think that way. You want to reduce complexity. On the other side, I feel like on the JavaScript world, it's more about VC funding, getting developers to act a certain way, and pushing forward with more servers and so on. And it's obvious to me that the difference in mindset between this group and this group is different.
Yeah, I think so. I think Mark Kotz or Kotz, the CEO of Fly, he spoke about something around bandwidth alliance and trying to get away for like some of these SaaS providers or database providers to have some kind of alliance so that they could make bandwidth much cheaper.
Cool.
But I think that needed people to kind of work together also with
Right.
compute. So I think he explained his vision was around, like have instead of having their own database products, they have like a compute that people that offer database like Torso could use,
Right.
like you run image service you could use so that then people can use those tools from within the Fly network, and then you get cheaper bandwidth
Right.
and everything. But I think probably because they were like a growing company, some people were not willing to make huge bet on that kind of system.
Right. Yeah.
So I think he gave up on that idea after some years, and but it's still cheaper in terms of bandwidth compared to a lot of the major
Other companies. Right, yeah.
providers. So I think I use them as well. But for me, what I like a lot with them is the multi region deployment. So it's easier to
Yes.
scale globally with
That is
just
correct.
a simple command, and then once you scale globally with that, you could also say like you can dynamically route requests to a particular machine, and then it comes with a built-in Grafana dashboard that you could even
Yes.
see. So,
Yeah.
but
It's quite sick. It's really cool. Hey.
yeah, the sad part with the Grafana dashboard is more like he might be going away soon because I think they are considering fading it out or maybe making it a paid service because they need a way to dedicate more time with it, and if they are not improving it a lot, so maybe they are considering
Right.
just giving you a means to ship your data somewhere so that they can focus on the infrastructure part. So if it goes away, we'll be quite sad because that's one of the things that makes me like Fly.
I
Yeah.
agree because
So
I deployed something recently with Sidekick, and I need logs, but maybe one day I will add something in Sidekick to give me like proper logs. But right now, like the server itself is shipping logs, it's logging every single request and logging stuff, but I just don't have access to them, and that
yeah, I
sucks.
think they give you away with this Fly log shipper that you
Yeah.
can use to ship to like maybe Vector or Dev. But I made something last year which I haven't I didn't promote a lot, which was a way to tap into their nats.io server where you get all the
Right.
logs. So then it logs it to maybe like a DocDB, and then I have a UI where you can just search and get the filter the logs. But it was just too much for me to maintain. So I just take the logs and probably send them to like Axiom or something to look through from there.
I'm actually
So
gonna look into that, man. I need it. Axiom, and then there's better stack as well, but I need it for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah. So but you can tap into their Nuts IO or the there's a way you can configure it to tap into the log server, and then you get for every log event you can get it on your Fly.io app, and then maybe push that to Axiom or just put it to
I
a
know what you mean.
DocDB.
Yeah, I'm just
So
having a look now. I think I need to add this to Sidekick though, because I'm using Sidekick. I'm no longer using Fly. Well, I guess I'm a little bit biased.
well, if you make it, you have to be one of the biggest users.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love Sidekick. I was just using it yesterday to deploy a new project, and I was really happy.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. So let's talk about Sidekick. What is Sidekick and why did you decide to make Sidekick and ditch your favorite flight or die?
Yeah, so actually, I think the story is a bit weird, but man, like I was learning to Go. I wasn't trying to build anything. I was learning Go, and when I learned Go, uh, I was learning Go, and I when I learned it, my objective was like, okay, I'm gonna learn Go, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna build a CLI tool to save links. And all that happened because I had like a big. Have you heard of raindrop.com? Like where you can save your links.
Of what?
Uh, Raindrop. It's called Raindrop. Raindrop.io,
No.
I think. But anyway, it's just a place where you can bookmark links and all that. And for the life of me, I just can't remember my login to Raindrop. So I was like, all right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm learning Go anyway for fun. I'm gonna make a CLI that can give me bookmarks. And I learned Go. I got to a decent beginner level with it. I'm still am, by the way. And I built the CLI in literally like it didn't take long, like maybe like 3 hours. And I'm like, wait, what? I thought this was gonna be a lot harder. Maybe it's not. Maybe Go is far more powerful than I thought. Okay. And then after that, I tried, okay, how about we just get our hands rolling? How about we build like URL shortener with Go? Again, it took me like 3 hours. Like, wasn't that hard. It's quite straightforward. Like Go is just really good. Like, yeah, I found myself very, very productive. And then I thought, if this language is really like very powerful that way, maybe we should solve a bigger problem. And then at that time, I was like looking at Fly.io. Kamal from the guys from 37 Signals was like going all over the place and all that. And I thought, how about I challenge myself to build Kamal? How does this thing work? And I went into the Kamal, the docs, just reading through it. I think this could be doable. And the first thing I looked up was like, can I like write a Go CLI to run a command on the host machine? You know how you can write Docker build? I just want to write a Docker CLI a Go CLI that will run that command. And I found it again very simple to do. Okay. So maybe we can actually do this. And then that's it. I just got into the rabbit hole and like, how about we need to set up the server? Okay. At that point in time, I really didn't know what it means to set up a server. Okay. So we need to do some things, updating, upgrading. We need to do some things for security. Okay. So can I do that? Can I run like basically bash and sh commands remotely through Go CLI? Actually, a little bit tricky, but not very difficult. Again, I'm like, wow, I am being like, this is really cool, like you start building up things slowly, and yeah, Sidekick is born.
So Sidekick then is a way it's kind of like Kamal, a way for you to deploy your application to your remote servers or cloud
Yeah,
VMs.
that's right. Yeah. So I think the objective behind Sidekick is that basically you just pay for one big chunky VPS, and then you can deploy all your side projects to that VPS. And then if you get traction with any of the side projects, all you need to do is just log into Hetzner or cloud, whatever cloud provider you are, and just upgrade it, and you're good to go. So that's the objective behind Sidekick. And it's my vision was that I'm trying to copy the same experience that we had for Heroku, for Fly, for Vercel, where you can just simply write something, Sidekick deploy, and boom, it's up and running. You don't have to worry about the rest. And you'll be surprised. Like I can walk through. I'm going to give a demo like we discussed before, but it's not that difficult to get to that experience. It's not crazy.
And so what you describe basically, you say the Go CLI logs in to the server probably via SSH. And then you run those commands, those Docker commands like bash scripts via the Go over the SSH connection. And then the Docker, most likely Docker is already installed on the machine. So it sets up the image and the app. But I guess it's probably integrated with a server like your maybe Caddy or Traffic.
Yeah, 100% what you said. Yeah, so that's basically what we do. So there's the first command where you set up the server. It does that exactly. It will log in, set your server up, and then set up traffic as a service, and then your server is ready, really. and then you can deploy anything to that server because you have that. Traffic is fantastic because it just like routes things very easily, and just like you can route that to how many projects that you want to.
But I think I like what you said about how you started this without really knowing so much about the server and then looking through Kamal, because it speaks a lot about when you try to do something rather than believing it's difficult. And if you just try, by the way, I was also learning Go a bit last year, but most for the reason of trying to use an actor framework called Ego, trying to similar to what is in Erlang and Alexa, but I stopped
Oh,
a while ago because it's just too much to do at the moment. So if you
Ergo.
use ERGO, so I think if
All
you
right, I
type
just
in
found it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I was looking to try out the actor framework for the
Wow.
concurrency, and I didn't want to learn Alexa because it feels very different. It's functional, it's not
Yeah.
and it would require a lot to kind of change my mindset a bit. So I said, okay, let me try Go. It's system level. A lot of people speak about it, which I think is nice. I
Mhm.
hope to try out more Go stuff. But I was also trying to play around with the similar idea in terms of Kama. Can I replicate the same thing? But this time with JavaScript. So I also had this fun little project similar to Sidekick, which
Cool.
also just takes instead of Docker this time, but Podman and Caddy server. So it, similar config, maybe like a JSON config to read which Docker file to deploy, and then
Right,
it would
right, right.
run the Docker file, and then when the Docker file is running, it would also like create an entry in Caddy with the JSON config.
Yes.
Okay, route my
Yeah.
traffic to this Docker image. So you do
You
all those
built Sidekick.
things,
That's
and
exactly what it is.
yeah. So you do those and you see how fun it is, but
Yes.
like I wasn't trying to compete with Kamal or Sidekick, which would have been nice, but I'm trying to narrow my focus not to do a lot of things at the same time. So I just have it on the side
It's
in
my
the private
issue.
repo.
I understand. It's because this is definitely my issue, trying to narrow my focus. It's very
Yeah.
difficult.
But I
But
was thinking of making a tutorial like, okay, this is how to build something like Kamal
it's
with,
really cool.
this is how you, so because when you see that, you realize these things are not as difficult as you might imagine. You just need to know
Not at
if you
all.
know how to the commands you need to call. And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I agree. And like this is one of the things that I kind of like drill into the heart. I have like a section on the documentation to talk about Sidekick ethos, like what was I thinking behind that, and I always wanted to be transparent. Like this, what Sidekick does for you is not magic, and it's not crazy, it's not difficult, and you can replicate it over a weekend. But it's easier. And in the docs, I just say like this command will do this command will do this, and this is what I'm trying to get to. Which I don't like how some companies will try to make developers feel like this is really complicated. You have to come to us. We will do it for you. And I feel like that's always the messaging, man. It sucks. And like it's like I don't know. For the people listening, I screwed things up a couple of times with Sidekick. I screwed some really basic things with Sidekick, and the magic of open source. Like I got like an issue opening about. So basically, you remember when you were saying SSH
yeah.
communication between the Go CLI and the server. The first iteration of Sidekick was not doing that securely.
Oh,
It just wasn't confirming that the server is the server. It wasn't confirming the signature of the server. I was literally in Go in the SSH package in Go. I was literally ignoring that part. Just let it go, and because I was running quickly and I was trying learning a million different things, and somebody just said, "Hey, can you tell people that you're not really caring about security?" I'm like, "What do you mean? I do care about security." And I got literally taught by that person. I'm really thankful. A lesson in security. Like they kept sending me links and trying to tell me, "Hey, this is how you should be doing it." Like this is not the right way.
that's
This is the right
nice.
way. And I was like, "This is great. I love it," and I did it, and I'm very happy with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you also got a contributor supporting the project, if I'm not mistaken, because I checked it out a bit last year. Uh, I saw some things about shipping logs, and I wasn't sure if you guys had solved that. But I think either about shipping logs or making it work for multiple servers. I'm not sure.
Multiple servers, I think. I think some people were asking about. I'm gonna do multiple servers. I haven't worked on Sidekick for a while. I'm just working on something else, but I will come back to it. It's my issue with the focus, like we just said. But I will get back to it. It's a very nice project. I think nowadays, because I'm building something and I'm deploying that new project. That it's like a website, yeah, with Sidekick. I'm like, wait, hold on, but why is Sidekick not doing blah 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 blah? And I'm taking notes, and I'm like, gonna be building those features in there. So yeah.
Cool. I think we can, see how Sidekick works.
Yeah, let's go.
Maybe show us. Probably we might not be able to get through the installation part, or maybe you can talk us through how easy it is to install it, what it configures behind the scenes.
Yeah, so I think let me share my screen, and then I will go through I'll try. You can. I don't know how much time we have, but if you see me talking for too much or something, you can stop me. I can't see you now. I'm just like looking at the screen.
We have probably 20 minutes to get to to complete an hour, but it's you can just let me know if you have extra 5-10 minutes if it requires more time, but
yeah, all good. I'm okay, so we can keep going. So this is Sidekick website. So people can go and visit it, I guess, if you don't know it. I have removed Sidekick, so I think maybe that was a mistake considering the time constraint. But I'm just gonna install it quickly with Sidekick. You install it with Brew. So just Brew, install Sidekick, and you're good to go. That's what it is. It's quite simple. It's published to Brew, and that's what you should do. Get it like that. Now this is the current latest version. There's a couple of things that I have on my local that are not there, so we're not going to go into that. This is just the version that everybody can get. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go here first. I am here on CloudOcean. This is the Ocean, sorry. I'll literally just make a server. So let's spin up a server quickly. I'm gonna anywhere, it's fine. Let me just make it a bit fast so we don't have to wait for too long. Yeah, so let's just go like this.
No problem. Just take your time, explain so at least the audience can catch it,
Okay,
I have
cool.
time, so no worries.
All right, cool. So yeah, basically, I'm just making a server in San Fran or whatever I want to do it. Really, just for this purposes, I'm just sticking to Ubuntu. But this is what Sidekick recommends. This is what I built Sidekick for, basically. So I'm gonna make a server, and I'm gonna make sure that I have a key that I can basically access that server. I'm gonna call it something because later we're gonna delete it. So let's just create that VPS and get an IP address. Now, I like Hetzner, like everybody else likes Hetzner, but Hetzner is very cheap, so they don't give you IP v4 addresses, and they do, but they only have you have one IP v4 address for that specific region for your account. And that creates some problems. So I like to get new addresses, and that's just easier for me because I'm burning VPSs all the time when I'm testing Sidekick. So I'm just used to DigitalOcean, really. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do...
I think it's easier DigitalOcean to create. I don't know. I haven't tried Hetzner, but I always like DigitalOcean because of the easy setup for the VMs.
I agree. I think DigitalOcean, the UI is better, but man, the price difference is insane. So
yeah,
here we go.
Right.
So my projects are actually hosted in Hetzner. I'm testing on DigitalOcean. If DigitalOcean people hear this, you can give me a coupon or something. I'll be very happy. Anyway, so yeah. Now I'm gonna run this first command. This first command is Sidekick init. This is the command that will set up the server for you. So right now I just got a bare VPS. It's quite empty, and then Sidekick is going to set up that server for you. So it's asking you for the IP address. Now, notice with Sidekick, this is a decision that I might actually change. I always wanted Sidekick to be conversational, to be instead of configuration where you can have a YAML file you fill up yourself. I wanted it to be more of an experience where you can just Sidekick is talking to you and you're going through some kind of a prompt to get things done. So this is what will happen here. This is your address, and then we need an email just because we need Sidekick will also handle your SSL certificates for you. I mean, through traffic, but we just need an email for that as well. So I'm just gonna give it whatever Boogie email. And then what's happening now is that will tell me like, hey, you already have a server set up with Sidekick from before. So are you sure you're going to overwrite the server that you had from before? And in this case, I'm happy with that. I'm going to say yes. And then now we get this, this is the signature of the server. So this is basically saying, hey, this is the fingerprint of your VPS. At the address that you've given us. Does this look okay? So basically, this is just making sure that you are happy with this. That basically, this is the right server. Obviously, this is trying to prevent the man-in-the-middle attacks, just to make sure that this is actually your server. And if everything is okay, Sidekick is going to add this to your known host, so you don't have to do this again. I'm going to say yes.
About the previous question. So does it mean you can only have one server connected to Sidekick? At the moment, I see.
Correct. At the moment, there's only one server per Sidekick installations. We will get there, but yeah, at the moment, there's only one server. So yeah, right now, what's happening is that we logged in your VPS server, and then we have basically done upgrade and update, and then we made a new user called Sidekick. And then we are setting up your VPS now. And maybe later I can show the commands that we run, but it's basically just updating, upgrading, making sure everything is latest. And then we are going to install Docker. And then later we will set up a traffic to be the reverse proxy for us to use. This usually takes around 1 to 2 minutes. I hope that the demo lords are happy with me today, so we don't run into any issues. We just have to wait a little bit for that.
Yeah, so while we wait, that means, from what I see, it creates a new user so that you don't always have to log in with the root user, and then probably disable something because of the security part you mentioned, and then log in with the new user.
Yeah, that's right. So it will create a new user, disable the root login, disable password login, and then it will just log in with the new user that it just created. These is like just simple practices. I think it does disable password login. Yeah. So I'm just like basic, just security practices. There's a lot more I want to do in this area, by the way. I want to add firewall. From this stage, you should be able to add a firewall because the way things are set up is that your traffic instance is what gets all the traffic from outside the server, and then it will route it down inside of your different projects. And yeah, so basically you can do a firewall where just like you're only allowing traffic to go into your traffic instance. So it's also good, but right now we don't have that. But yeah, this is basically what happened now. So we installed Docker and we set up a traffic instance.
We have a question from the audience by my friend Obai. It says, is Sidekick distro and OS agnostic?
No, right now it only runs on Ubuntu.
And any particular reason why it's specifically Ubuntu?
Yes. So I just needed to narrow down when I was developing Sidekick, really. So Ubuntu is the most famous for servers. It's not, maybe it is. I don't know, man. The only reason why, to be very honest, the only reason I did this is because when you go here, it's the default settings. I'm being honest here. It's literally the default settings that it's Ubuntu. So yeah, man, I know it's very arbitrary, but when you're developing something like this, I was really not thinking that it will actually have audience or someone will actually use it. So yeah, it's just Ubuntu was the default, so I just developed it for Ubuntu. Yeah.
But I guess probably there might not be any specific OS command. So in that case, maybe it would also be work on Debian. Probably.
Correct. So I think I always say, like, because with open source, some people will go and say like, hey, it doesn't work for this distro, it doesn't work for this distro. So I'm just saying like, I have tested it with Ubuntu LTS and that works, and I think it will work with Debian as well. I just haven't spent time working on that, but I think it should work. But maybe some people can try and see how it goes.
Okay, so you can try on Debian and let us know.
Yes, exactly. Try on Debian and let us know. So this is basically the setup stage now. I want to show a couple of things that happened from this stage. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into my config folder. If I go into the Sidekick, inside .config.sidekick, this folder, I will see something called the default file here. And this is basically, let me just make this clearer. So this is basically the result of that configuration locally. And it's basically storing the cert email, it's storing a public key and a secret key. And I'll go back, I'll talk a little bit why we're doing this. One of the things that I really focused on with Sidekick is security with end variables. I wanted a better way to do it. Because, like with fly.io, they have this UI where you can inject secrets. If you're running on Kubernetes, you can have a SOPs controller like we do in our professional work. But I wanted something that is cheap and easy to run, but is also secure enough. And if you go to Kamal will recommend that you use something like 1Password or Vault to do the same thing. But this is my solution for it, and it's really cheap. It just I'll talk about the details later, but that's basically the result of this. And obviously, if I go to the server itself, so I'm gonna SSH into the server with the new user. I want to show the people what happened here. So right now, I do have a project called Sidekick, and then in that project, there's a traffic service that's basically running. So that's the result of the Sidekick init. So basically, Sidekick init will set up your server, basically with the best practices. It will set up Docker, and it will set up this traffic service for you to be ready for you to host your own projects. Cool. So that's basically what happens when you do Sidekick init. So I'm going to go back into, this is basically Next.js Docker. So this is the normal Next.js Docker repo that you literally can get from Next.js GitHub, really. I'm just going to clean things up. I was just testing and making sure everything's fine before we jumped on the live. I'm just going to clean some things up. I'm going to jump into Zilij. Maybe some people here will know what Zilij is, but this is just basically how I edit my files. I just want to show you a couple of things here. We have a very, very basic Docker file. Again, this is not my code. This is just the code that comes with the Next.js Docker example. And I'll show you how easy it is to host Next.js to your VPS in literally one command right now. But this is basically what we have. Something else I want to show as well is that we have an API endpoint here. Again, this is just from the template. And in this case, the API endpoint is simply returning an end variable. And this end variable is coming from here. So we have something here in the end variable called secret, which is the value is new secret. And then basically this is being returned here. This is like very simple setup. Again, this is not my code. This is literally just a Docker example from Next.js. Cool. Now let's deploy this to our VPS. All you have to do is just Sidekick deploy. Is not found. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. You need to do Sidekick launch first to launch your applications. Again, I'm heavily inspired by Fly. So you do Sidekick launch. Let's ask you a couple of questions. So I'm going to say the app URL friendly name in this case is next. And then it will try to read your Docker file, and it will learn what port your Docker image is going to expect to receive traffic. In this case, it's 3000. And it will give you this part here. You can say if you have an actual domain that points to your VPS, you can put it in here. But in this case, I'm just giving you like a shortcut for you to test, which is using sleep.io with the subdomain, and then that points up to your server VPS. And then finally, it's going to ask, do you have an environment variables that I should look after? In this case, we do. So it's going to ask you, where do you want these environment variables to go? And in this case, it's the .env file. I'm going to say yes. Now, what's going to happen is, first things first, Sidekick is going to make sure that it can still access your VPS. That's the first step. And then it will try to build your latest Docker image. So it's basically, it has a Docker file. It's going to build a Docker image, and it will take the Docker image. And then the next step, it's going to save it as a file locally on your machine, and it will move it to your VPS.
You mean save the image?
Correct. So previously, when I started Sidekick, I had it basically use what is it called? A repository, right? A Docker image repository. And one of the recommendations that I got from some of the people in the open source was that basically maybe you don't need that. And obviously you don't need that, because the idea behind Sidekick is that, again, complexity bad, simplicity good. So in this case, there's really no need for you with your side project to do this. to have like your own Docker repository or push it to Docker Hub or whatever it is. All you have to do is just basically save the image locally as a file, move that file on your server, and then once you do that, you can load it up on your server as a Docker image and then spin it up. And that's what's happening right now.
So I have a question regarding the Sidekick deploy, but before we get to that, I have a question from Oino in the chat. It says, any reason Traffic versus Nginx? Maybe there are some good things on Traffic that we Nginx people are missing out. What informed the decision? So if you are an Nginx fan, just start using Traffic. Or my own preference is Caddy, so use Caddy.
Right.
But anyway, I'll let you answer that. I'm just joking.
No, it's all good. Nginx is the best when it comes to performance. There's no questions there. Nginx rocks. The good thing with Caddy is that the good thing with Traffic is that Traffic has this feature where it can listen on to your Docker socket, and it will auto-detect when containers are becoming alive. And that comes out of the box. Caddy can do the same thing with a plugin, I believe, but this just comes out of the box with Traffic, and that makes my job as someone who's trying to build a tool much easier. So with Traffic set up this way, if I spin up this if I spin up this Docker image for my project, it will get detected automatically by Traffic, and by adding some labels, I'll show you this later, the Traffic will know how to handle this new project, know how to handle this container. So it just makes it a little bit easier. Again, you can do this with Caddy. I don't know if you can do this with Nginx, to be honest. But yeah, Traffic is just easy for me in this case. Yeah.
So with Sidekick, then when you deploy, Traffic automatically knows, okay, there's a new Docker image, and this is the URL to create for it. So
correct. That's right. And I will show you how that happens. We will log into the VPS soon, and I'll show how that happens. Yeah.
I think that's nice. For me, I like Caddy because it gives you a lot of, I don't know about Traffic, but Caddy gives you a lot of nice defaults if you don't specialize in tweaking, like this kind of servers. So Caddy gives a lot of defaults.
Right.
And I like Caddy's JSON config. So the way I did mine, the one I explained that I built, was after I deploy. So when I deploy the app, I don't use Docker Compose behind the scenes. So it just creates a new container and then rename, stop the other one. But before that, it adds the new localhost URL to the Caddy server config. And then when it's done, it will just remove the other Docker container and then rename it. So, but I think if there's a plugin like that, it's also very nice because you don't have to worry about that. But then you also have the flexibility of probably being able to run multiple containers on one traffic port or domain.
Yes, that's right. I do think Caddy can do the same thing. And I know what you mean. I think we do the same. We don't change the traffic settings because they are, again, like I said, by default listening in.
Yeah.
But then on your Docker Compose, what you say is like you give labels to your service, and that is what picks up by traffic automatically. Yeah. So it's a little bit easier than Caddy, I would say.
Yeah.
In this instance, but I understand what you mean. Caddy is simpler with basic defaults. That's correct.
Yeah, but I think they are all very, very fast. I know I've seen some videos comparing the performance and also memory usage, but I don't really remember the last one I saw which one was doing better. But I think they all do the job.
Good.
I just feel like Nginx is legacy and.
Oh, right. Nginx is faster. You can check the thing, but I mean, like if you're running, like again, if you're solving problems of scale with millions and millions of customers, you probably should be using Nginx. Yeah, it's just faster at that scale, I think. So I think maybe now we can. Yeah. Sorry.
So we can go ahead.
Okay, cool. So now I'm just going to show that this is, so I'm just going to copy this URL that was just given at the end of that command. I'm just going to paste that in and cross my fingers that nothing goes wrong. And here we go. This is it. This is Next.js running on your VPS. It's actually that simple. And then I want to show you something interesting here. I'm going to go to API hello. This is the route that we talked about before. And you can see that the environment variable is actually being sent the right way. That means Sidekick has handled an environment in the correct way. I'm going to spend maybe like 5 minutes talk about how Sidekick handles environment variables and why, because it's quite important. And then I'll talk about how you can deploy a new version of your application. So I'm going to go back to the terminal. I'm going to SSH into the VPS again. And then what I will see here is now I have two folders now, the Sidekick traffic, the traffic system that we had before. And then I have a new folder for that new project, which is called Next, that we called Next, right? I'm going to go in there, and then I will see two files, the Docker Compose file and an encrypted environment file. And this is really critical in this point. I'm just going to cat the encrypted file here. You can see it. And you can see here, there's some stuff here that says how to unencrypt this with Agge and SOPs. But basically, it says this is the encrypted value of the secret environment variable that we had. And then if I were to, maybe we can vim Docker Compose, yeah. Let's give it a second. So if you look into here, these are basically the labels that I was talking about. It would just say, with this service, enable it in traffic. And then if you get the request through this host, then you should route it to this server, this image, sorry, and then it will receive its request on port 3000. Make sure that you use SSL and use the exact cert resolver, and then add it to the network so that it can communicate with traffic. And that's how it works, right? So that's why there's a Docker Compose file as well, because this way you can have your traffic running and you don't have to worry about it. It's just listening on the Sidekick network. And then in another folder, you can have another service, another image, whatever it is, and then they are connected on that network, and traffic is listening in. And by adding those labels, traffic just picks it up and knows what to do.
Well, I think that's quite nice and handy.
It's very cool.
If you get to learn a bit of traffic and SSH, you could all do this by yourself.
Yes, 100%. Use Sidekick because I built it and it's faster and easier for you. But if you want to learn, of course, yeah, you can do it yourself. That's right. And then the other thing here that I find interesting here is this one. Oops, no, this is not Helix. Yeah. So yes, here we go. So the environment here. Now, so this one is quite important. When you are hosting your application in a VPS, handling environment variables becomes a little bit tricky. Because at the most of the time, the solution that we developers reach out to is that what you end up with is an .env file on your VPS that is being loaded up by your Docker image or your application or whatever it is. I hate that idea just because you don't know who might break into your VPS. I don't know if that's can happen or cannot happen, but I just don't like the idea of having your API keys like literally staying on your machine unencrypted. That really is not a good idea. I really don't like that idea. And that's why we did this. And that's why also Camel and Fly will give you those ways of you to be able to inject secrets at runtime. Now, the way Camel does it is that they recommend that you sign up to 1Password or use Vault or whatever it is for you to inject those secrets. The way Fly does it, I don't know exactly how they inject it into your application, but basically they have this UI for you to do things. The way I decided to do it with Sidekick is to use this very, very weird model where basically your local machine is the machine that has the secret key and also the public key. And then what it will do, and this is again a weird setup, because usually you will keep the secret key where you want to decrypt and you give the public key to a person who's trying to encrypt something for you. But in this case, they both stay on your machine. And then your machine through Sidekick is going to basically encrypt your environment file locally. And then it will result into that encrypted env file. It will move that to your server. And on your server, it will securely use the secret file to decrypt the environment file, spin up a new SH, like basically a terminal, and then your environment your environment secrets are going to only be available in that process and not outside of it.
Oh, okay.
I hope that makes sense. So for example, right now I have on this machine right there I'm running the secret, right? And then we can see here that it's actually coming through. So it's definitely, where did it go? It's actually coming through. So I definitely know it's working. But if I go back here and then run, what is it? env dash grep of secret, I'll find nothing. So it's basically not there. If I run this, there's so much envs, obviously. And then you can see here everything, the term, what it is, the user, and so on. But my secret is not here. It's literally using SOPs to spin up another process, and inside the other process, this is where your secure environment variables are being injected. And again, this is not super ultra secure, but it's as secure as you can get with this really cheap setup. And I think this is very important for us, because I always found it really weird for us to be able to handle environment variables in a certain way that's really decent and good.
I think it's also fine, especially if if you are a solopreneur, solo dev, doing your own thing. Probably you don't need so much of the password syncing, because you work solo and mostly just use one machine. But then
Correct.
maybe it's still fine to save on one password so that you can, transfer to a different machine in case you lose your laptop,
Yep.
for example. But you could all pull them down locally and then use subs to do that, which I think is interesting. Although I haven't really used subs or tried it.
Yeah, SOPs is really good. Yeah, but I think like with the what's it called? With 1Password will, like you said, you can save it in 1Password, but 1Password also has this API for developers, which will do the injection automatically for you. So it will decrypt it automatically and inject it to your environment automatically. So it's a paid service though, so that's why I don't like it, because I feel like it's too much. But yeah. So that's basically what we did. And then last thing I'm going to show is basically, before we log out, if I go here into the Sidekick project, I'll go into logs, and I can see these are the logs that are coming from Next.js right away. So these are my logs, basically. And that's kind of like happening in the future, where I can ship these logs back to you, whatever it is. But yeah, this is just running.
This logs would be the logs of every application running through Sidekick.
Correct. It's every application in the project Sidekick, which is a Docker Compose project. But yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's every application that's running through Sidekick. That's correct.
Yeah, I see.
Cool. I'm gonna exit now. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
That might be tricky when you start shipping logs, because then what if you want to ship? I mean, it depends. So if you want to ship logs for all your application, then it makes sense to do it that way. Then you get everything and maybe have a way to filter on the login infrastructure. But if you want to say, okay, for this particular app, ship the logs to somewhere else, then that might be tricky. I mean, I'm just guessing based on the architecture.
Yeah, no, I agree. But then I think with Docker Compose, you can do this thing where you can only show the logs for one specific service, but I forgot the command really. But you can do something filter. Like probably dash filter, I guess. yeah. So probably filter or something, and then you can write down the service name. I think it's like that. So if you do this should work. Obviously, this doesn't work. Unknown command, unknown flag. But I think that's what you're trying to do. So there is a ways around it. Yeah.
I see that. That's interesting.
Cool. So now, one more thing I want to show. I think maybe, I have so many things to show with Sidekick. I also have Sidekick Pro, which will come in the future, which is a paid version of Sidekick, which will handle your database deployments, your database backup automatically, and restore. But that's something I'm working on. Maybe if we have time, I can show it. But for now, what I want to show you guys is two things: how to deploy a new version of your application. And then I'm going to show you that it's also zero-downtime deployment, and that will be the end of the demo, because I think there are more features, but you can check the docs really. Cool. So right now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go into the index file over there, and then I'll literally just change this to on Sidekick. So I'm just going to make a very simple change to the HTML so that we can see it. In this case, this is an application that already happened, that already is launched, so I can deploy a new version of it by running Sidekick deploy. I'm going to do that first. So I'm going to show you that we can deploy a new version very easily. You can also configure this to run when you do git push. I have in the docs, you can see how you can do it. It's really simple. But basically, if you want, every time you can push your code, Sidekick will deploy your application. You can do that, which is exactly what Vercel is doing for you. If you are listening, You don't have to use Vercel anymore. So yeah, that's basically it. So yeah, this should be really simple for you to do.
So then I think when you do Sidekick launch, it sets up like the environment file, the Docker Compose file, and all, so that they can use it to push to the server when it builds. And the deploy doesn't need to go through those steps and just takes the Docker file and transfers it to the server.
Correct, but it will check that your environment file hasn't changed. I'll show you this
Okay.
when this guy has finished. But you can see the second step here: environment file check complete, and that I'll show you how we do this. We basically I hash your environment file and make sure that it hasn't changed. So if I cat Sidekick YAML here, you can see that the environment file is .env and with a hash. And if that hash has changed, so in this specific step, I will recompute, re-encrypt your environment file and push it again. So it depends on what has changed in the application, really. In this case, nothing has changed, but the service itself, but the image. So like, yeah, we don't do that. So if I go back here, and then let me just, this is the old version, obviously. I'm gonna refresh, and you can see now it just says Sidekick, and this is it. I've just deployed a new version of it.
Quite simple.
Very simple. It's as simple as it gets, I believe. So yeah, this is just exactly the experience that you would expect to get from something like Vercel or Fly, whatever it is. It's meant to be that way. That's my intention with it. Now I want to show you that this deployment that we just did is actually a zero-downtime deployment. So what I will do now, I'm gonna let me think. What I will do is basically like this. Yes, I'm gonna split this pane, and then what I'll do, I'm gonna watch. If you guys remember the API URL, which is API/hello, right there. So this is the API URL, and right now it's returning new secret. What I will do is I'm actually gonna watch this. So I will go back here. I'm gonna curl this every 1 second. So just to show you guys that it's gonna alternate between the new version and the old version. Now what I'll do is I am going to basically open up the .env file, and then I'm gonna change this value to latest secret. Right? And then remember what I just said earlier about Sidekick YAML keeping track of your hash. So what will happen now, when I run Sidekick deploy, Sidekick will realize that you have changed your environment file. And when that happens, it will recompute re-encrypt your file, and then it will push another version of your environment over there. I think this is happening because, okay, I don't know why this is happening. I'm just gonna ignore it. I think we need to make this bigger, but I forgot how to deal with Kitty. But anyway, so yeah, just a bit flickered there. But basically what's happening now, again, it's the same deployment, but the only difference is that we have changed we've changed the environment, the secrets, right? Now, if you notice, this is a bug in Sidekick that I'm trying to fix, but it's a bit more complicated than what I imagined, to be honest. Basically, when we build an image locally, you should be able to see that image. The second build with your Docker should be faster because using cache. Due to the way I run the Docker commands, it's not working very well. So the cache is not working. Let's just pay attention to this one here. It says new secret, and you'll see this change here now to latest secret, and then new secret. In this case, in this instant, there are 2 versions of your applications running in production, and then slowly the old application is going to die, and then the latest application is going to stay. And then it just says latest secret now. And that's zero-downtime deployment for you right there. Is it magical? Isn't it magical? That's it. Yeah. So if I refresh this page now, it just says latest secret. And of course, I'm demoing this with the environment because it's the most, I don't want to say the hardest, but like, yeah, it's the most annoying part to make sure that you get right, because that means you did spin up both of them. But you obviously, like, if you spin up 2 different versions, one of them have different designs, whatever it is, you will get the same exact experience and everything will just work.
And what's the mechanism here? Is it like checks for health check before it kills off the old application, or it just does like a rolling update and kills off the
Yes, correct. It will check for health, but it will just check that it's getting 200 from just binging the URL. So we don't have health checks like Kamal does, which is not a good thing. We should probably have health checks. but for now, it's just very rudimentary. It just checks, is your IP address at 3000 responding, or is it giving me an error? And if it's responding, then it's live. Then if it's live, if we're going to start routing traffic to it, and then we kill the old one.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, I think that's nice to see that you can get zero downtime deployment with the system. You've shown how simple it is. It's just change your Docker file, change your code, change M file, and Docker
And
deploy,
that's
and
it.
then you have everything rolling. And you also, if you don't know how to set up a VPS, you also don't have to worry about it because
Nope.
Sidekick does all that for you, and also in terms of securing the VPS. So all you need to do is pick a cloud VM and
Yeah.
create the virtual machine or the server, and then run Sidekick, and you have that. So I'm
Yeah.
guessing with the pro version you mentioned, maybe then we people will start seeing things around being able to use Sidekick for multiple
Correct.
virtual machines. So
That's right.
those
Yeah.
will
So I
be
think
nice.
that would be nice. Multiple version. I don't know if you have enough time, but like, yeah, I can show you. I think the focus with Sidekick Pro is that you can do this. You can do, I'll show you. So just the commands. The Sidekick Pro, you can add a database and it would look like this. What kind of database you want to add, SQLite or Postgres? In this case, I absolutely love SQLite. I'm just going to say, I want to add a database that's called an SQLite database. In this case, I'm just going to call it prod. And then what this will do is that basically it's going to mount a volume for you, and then it's going to add this specific environment specific environment variable into your environment, and that will just open it up there, and then it will just ask you everything is okay. So you say yes, it will run the whole thing again for you, and it will set it up. Obviously, if you choose Postgres SQL, it will spin up a Postgres image, and then again, it will give you the right URL there. So if
Uh,
I go to the cat.env now, I will have the database URL right there. Obviously, if this is a Postgres, it will be the URL that your image in production will be able to reach the Postgres instance with the exact. It's basically the connection string. This has everything, and then the next step is for us to do a database backup as well. So we'll just
uh,
ask you, hey, you have set up an SQLite, so you can actually use Lightstream to do a continuous backup to S3 back. I love the setup, by the way.
oh,
This is not an application. It's just meant to keep your data safe. Lightstream will perform automatic restore of your data if you decide to move to another VPS.
I think
This is,
that's
again,
nice.
this is
Yeah.
fantastic setup. I absolutely love this. And then
And
again, it's the same thing. Like, yeah, this is a bit complicated, but you can do that. And then it will just, every single write you do to the SQLite database will be streamed back to your S3 bucket. And what that means is if DigitalOcean decides to kick you out or increase your pay, increase your price, whatever it is, your data is safe, you have your Docker image, you can spin it up somewhere else and you're good to go.
yeah, that's quite nice. I like that you are also taking this further because besides deployment, people also want to host databases and all.
That's
And
right. Yeah.
I think you also have a SQLite in there, which is a trend in the last 1 or 2 years now. Also, a lot of people moving to SQLite, and also the folk from Torso also building their own SQLite compatible
Yeah.
database, which might be nice to offer because I was reading, or I read rather, something before the stream about why SQLite is bad on the server or for production. So that is also a different perspective. But it's nice to see how all this plays out. Obviously, for some scenarios, maybe SQLite is not the best database for you, but maybe
Yeah,
Postgres.
it depends. Yeah.
So it depends, and it's nice to see how a lot of solutions are coming out for self-hosting these days, and
Yeah.
I I'm happy to see how Sidekick works because I didn't try it personally. Just browse through the docs, and it's time for us to start wrapping up because it's we're almost hitting the 90 minutes mark, more than we planned.
All good.
And uh, I don't think I have any other question here. Let's see. So you explained most things that I had in mind, like how you handle secrets, how you built it, the language, how it works. So you even, it seems like you read my mind and went through all those stuff, which I hope every listener also took something, from seeing how all this thing works, because you can also probably tweak it to how you want it to behave.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Mm,
you mentioned Sidekick Pro, which is one version for Sidekick in the future with database and more features. But
yeah.
beside that, what plans do you have for Sidekick going forward?
So yeah, I think what I want is to get I really want to get the free version to support multiple VPSs. I think that's essential. So
Yeah,
I want to get that out, and then I think most of the new features I want to add will be probably in Sidekick Pro. But the things that I have planned are obviously one, database support, and two, logs shipping, or maybe log shipping might go to the open source version. I'm not sure. And then one more is branch-based deployment. So basically, you have a staging environment for your app,
oh yeah.
whatever it might be, right? I think that's also important. I did have a list, but I don't remember where the list is. But yeah, basically, those are the ones that I have on top of my mind now. But I think database is the most important one. Database backup, database restore. That's the one that is most essential, I think.
Yeah, cool. Um, so I guess that's all from my side. No more questions from the audience, and I would say if anyone is interested, you can check it out at github.com/mighty mood, which is just the part
My
of his
username.
name /sidekick. And but the link is in the chat comment if you're curious. I will also drop it in the video description if you want. And Mahmoud, where can people find you?
I am terrible with social media, but I am on X at Mighty Mood, and yeah, you can find me there, I think.
Cool. So probably they can also follow the project just in case they see you start pushing new change. Do you have a Discord for the project?
I don't.
Okay.
I think I should.
Understandably.
I don't, but yeah.
I mean, maybe because if you don't spend so much time on social, then it might not be a good idea because then it's just there
Yes.
and you should be there coordinating the group.
Yes,
But
that's right. I think I'm learning. I'm new to all this open source stuff, but man, like, yeah, I'm not very good staying in touch, and yeah, I don't even have Slack or any of these apps on my laptop. I just don't.
yeah, so you're a 10x engineer then, focus, cranking out code.
I'm just overloaded with stimulus, so it's enough for me.
Yeah, I think that's also fine. If I mean, not everyone have to be on social, but good enough. I think your project is taking off. It has 6.5K plus
Yeah.
stars on GitHub now, so which shows the appreciation and usage and support from the community. One thing with open source is trying to do marketing, maybe on like the likes of Vercel, but without so much marketing, you already have a lot of visibility on the project, and I wouldn't put you under the umbrella of all marketers are liars. So
Ah, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
yeah. So, but it was nice chatting with you, and I hope the others find it useful. So, in 2 weeks on March 7th, we have another live stream about self-hosting, where we focus on running your Caddy server. We talk about caching Caddy. We also have the founder of C2 Networks, which is using their CDN on top of Caddy and extra caching layer for Caddy, which the caching layer also works it also works for traffic. So if you use traffic, that could be